Modern education in India is a misnomer, as the colonialists and their sycophants have identified it with the Western education introduced by the Christian missionaries.
By the force of papal bull issued by Alexander VI that divided the world into two halves, authorizing Spain to colonize and convert the entire non-Christian world from the west of the line of the Bordes and Portuguese eastward from the same line, with a specific reference to India as well. Consequently, Vasco da Gama's voice was officially sponsored, and he eventually discovered the sea route to India via Cape of Good Hope with the help of Indian merchants from Gujarat. The Portuguese captured Goa in 1510, and by 1546, all village pathsalas were converted into missionary schools under the influence of St. Francis Xavier following Pope Paul III's decree. Such activities were further intensified upon the implementation of Goa Inquisition.
The missionaries began teaching the lingua franca Coromandel along with Portuguese, French, English and arithmetic. First full-fledged English medium school was established in Madras in 1715, which is reckoned to be the oldest Western school in Asia.
Guiding principles for the educational activities in the British India were restricted to the preparation of the database and translations of religious texts, for preparing the civil code for jurisprudence, and urgency to implement the Cornwallis Code. To establish the colonialist hegemony over the subaltern class, the Orientalists were drawn to the academic activities to ontologise India or Indian culture to match the Western perception of India that was to precipitate in Hull Head's Gentoo code, exacerbating a casual attitude towards a serious academic business, and William Jones's law of money, modeled on Justinian Code, which was designed to implement Catholicism in the 7th century Roman Empire, assuming that Indian society was comparable to the barbaric society of the Dark Age Europe, a belief system which was categorically affirmed by the Utilitarianists like Mill. So, at the initial stage, classical Indian languages and learning were patronized by studying of Calcutta Madrasa and Sanskrit Vidyalaya at Banaras.
Inspired by the Portuguese missionary works on Bengali grammar, Hall had brought out the Bengal grammar using Bengali fonts developed from Mithilakshara script and applied it to the local language of the Calcutta region that had evolved out of the Magadhi Prakrit. The language was then used at the Fort William College for administrative purpose, employing translators and scribes. So the employees like William Carey turned to Bengali translation of the Bible upon setting up a press at Rampur, and Ishwar Chand Banerjee standardized the Bengali fonts for printing purpose by the publication of the Varna Parichaya or Introduction to the Bengali alphabet. On the adaptation of Devanagari for writing Sanskrit in the Hindustani-speaking belt, unlike Bengal, Orissa, Southern and other states, the British employed the scribes and translators to use Devanagari, dropping Nastaliq for writing Hindustani, as they wanted to sever the connection with the lingua franca of the Mughal rule. Thus, the language that grew in the Fort William College using Devanagari script was then officially designated as Hindi.
Upon shift in the colonial policies, corollary to the fast-changing global economy due to Industrial Revolution, the British embraced their liberalist policies to promote Western consumerism by transforming India into a colonial market for the sale of their industrial products. To diffuse the Western values, the British recognized the urgency of educating the natives to develop the Western taste for the Western products. Hence, they introduced the Western education in India. In the backdrop, Macaulay's minute on education was introduced in India since 1835, and since then has been the primary guiding principles for the Indian policies on education.
The Wood's dispatch is often described as Magna Carta of English education in India. It recommended a system of grant in aid, setting up of an education department in every province, and a provision for government school in every district with mother tongue as medium of instruction at the school level. It also recommended the establishment of universities at Bombay, Calcutta and Madras in the model of London University to formalize higher education in India. Indian Education Commission, or the Hunter Commission, headed by William Hunter as its chairman, appointed in 1882 and submitted its report in 1883. It discouraged free education and recommended government's minimum involvement in education sector except in backward or tribal areas. It recommended paid education, lower fees for private institutions when compared with a government college, ranking system for grant in aid, etc. Further to incubate Western values among the natives, it introduced a provision for sending select students to England for higher education and appointment of the teachers with Western degrees. The Indian Universities Act on University Reforms was set up under the chairmanship of Thomas Raleigh. The report reflected in 1904 Act recommended greater control of the government in the university affairs with empowerment to make regulations for the University Senate for any desired change. It also defined the jurisdiction of the university and terms for affiliation of a college and their grants in aid. Government Resolution on Education of 1913 recommended reforms in school education. It called for sufficient expansion of lower primary schools, setting up upper primary schools in proper places, efficient system of inspection at school level, teachers' qualification and salary, inclusive of geography and mapping, and subsidies to maktabs and pathsalas. Sadler Commission appointed in 1917 and submitted its report in 1990. It was headed by M.E. Sadler, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Leeds, with Ashutosh Mukherjee and Ziauddin Ahmad as the Indian members. It recommended stretching the period of higher education, setting up more colleges and universities in towns, and encouragement to women education and autonomous institutions. The establishment of the universities at Patna, Osmania, Aligarh, Dhaka, Lucknow, Delhi, Agra, Nagpur, Hyderabad and Annamalai were thus established, introducing teaching unlike the first three universities. Thus the number of universities became 30 by 1930. The Hartog Committee, headed by William Joseph Hartog, recommended the consolidation of schools rather than multiplication on the ground of dropouts, along with other measures for improvement. However, its report was not attended due to the economic depression of early 30s. Wood report recommended setting up vocational institutions parallel to the technical institutions, which in turn precipitated the concept of a new type of technical institution called the polytechnics. Aryan plan of education came to India in 1944. It was the first attempt to develop a national system of education in India by raising the standard of Indian education to the level of England in the following 40 years. By introducing structural level changes, adopting mother tongue with English as compulsory second language. It also proposed for an all-India organization similar to the University Grand Commission of England.